The second monthly edition of DK Vine's Kongparison, where members of our community get to rank things in a list. My name's Jeff Onan, and I'll be your host as we count down the best and worst weapons in the Donkey Kong universe. Joining me on today's panel is site staffer from the DK Vine Idaho crew, Andrew, otherwise known as Ape.
Hello, that's me.
Also joining me from the Idaho crew, we've got Dustin.
Hello, I'm the other one from the Idaho crew. Here I am once again.
And finally, another DK Vine site staffer and frequent conversation co-host, not a resident of Idaho. I am Gibbon.
Hello, hello.
That means you're an outsider.
Nice to meet. Oh.
Well, I'm not either, so we bounced the Idaho out. Me and Gibbon we're a voting block.
I used to live in Iowa. That's close.
That's close enough.
I don't like I name states. I'm not into Indiana.
Yeah, people confuse them all the time. So
yeah, Illinois,
it's like
Idaho, whatever.
Corn versus potato. Idaho, Iowa. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. So, well, what are we doing aside from state factoids? Well, in honor of the recent reveal of a new Perfect Dark video game, we asked members of the DK Vine forum to take a list of 10 major weapons in the Donkey Kong universe and rank them from worst to best. And today, we've aggregated those lists into one collective list, which we're going to be revealing by way of a countdown and discussing our thoughts and your thoughts on each of these weapons. So this is a monthly activity. It's just for fun. Anybody can participate by logging on to the DK Vine forum and posting their list in that month's Kongparison topic, located in the site events subforum. Finally, if you're part of the DK Vine Patreon, you'll be able to vote on what topics we compare in the months to come. You can sign up for our Patreon at dkvine.com/Patreon, and that helps support the costs of producing content like this. So, without further ado, let's get started with the rankings of weapons in the DKU. Are we ready?
Possibly.
I guess.
Mitchell is in the live stream chat talking about how he hates the gloves, which he told us before we started recording that he's wearing. He's wearing gloves.
We established that it was quite sexy, so
pretty hot. So we're gonna get started
I don't have
here.
a good feeling about the placement of gloves on this list.
Gloves, terrible weapon. Not a very good weapon are gloves. Because they don't fit, and then you get a quit or what. I guess that makes it a good weapon. O.J. Simpson murdered somebody. So we're gonna start this month with the No Hoper. The No Hoper is the item on the list that was voted in dead last. But luckily, this is an item that can dig its own grave. We're talking about the shovel.
No.
Talking about the shovel from Viva Pinata. The shovel was voted No Hoper 5 times, including by myself and also by Andrew here. We both voted the shovel as the worst weapon on this list. Dustin put the shovel at 9th place, while Gibbon, you slotted it in all the way up to 5th place. So for the people who didn't like the shovel, let's explain to Gibbon why the shovel is not a good weapon.
It's slow.
Is that it?
Yeah,
I really think so. It
slow
fulfills its needed purpose, I think, in the context of Viva Pinata, which is not a combat-heavy game. But if you're going to compare it to weapons from more combat-centered games, then that shovel is very sluggish and slow. I'd have to agree.
Now, you see, I object to this because arguments against some of the ones I ranked lower was that they're very multi-purpose and not just combat-oriented. So if that counts for those, I don't I don't see why this counts against the shovel.
Well, see, that's where this is going to be an interesting topic for all of us, because answering the question, what makes a weapon better than another weapon, it seems that has been fairly subjective. There's a lot of disagreement on the metrics that people used on what they ranked highly and why. And so we're going to see that play out.
Shovels don't kill piñatas. People do.
People with shovels kill piñatas.
That's true. Well, they don't even die, right? Their little ghost just materializes.
No, it's the shovel with the googly eyes.
Yeah, I think the shovel, obviously it's a multi-purpose tool, not just for combat. But I think as used in combat, it just doesn't feel good to use. It's like you got to wind it up and smack, and wind it up and smack. And sometimes you got to smack something like too many times. And you're like, this is slow.
I like that you can poke stuff with it. It's like, oh yeah, I don't want to smack this thing. I'm just going to tap it. And then stuff falls out of trees.
Then you accidentally make a pond. And you're like, shit, I got to fill in this hole. And then you're like, now I got to put grass back there because it's all dirt again. Fucking shovel.
So I didn't put it.
Yeah.
I didn't put it last because I still like the shovel. I like its design a lot. I do agree that it does not work very well as a weapon, which is why I didn't put it up higher. But like on its own, I do like it, which is why I don't have it in last. It looks neat.
It does look neat.
I like that it
think
gets upgrades and changes design.
Yeah.
If we weren't talking specifically about the shovel from Viva Pinata, if you just meant any shovel in any game, I would say shovels generally are good, and pretty satisfying as a melee weapon. They're just so heavy. But it's just not that good. If you got to smack, like if you have like a fence and you're trying to get rid of the fence and it's got like a bunch of chocolate bars of health, it's like really long time. Like if you're getting rid of a pathway and you want to delete every one and you smack each one. I know you could just sell them to the village shop lady, but that's faster. But that just means you wouldn't use the shovel for that. So the shovel's bad.
When I think of the shovel from Viva Pinata, the combat is not what comes to mind first. I think of digging holes or digging ponds.
Oh, you would.
Yeah.
I suppose that's fair.
Well, and when it comes to Viva Pinata and the word shovel, it brings to mind party animals, which is the Viva Pinata shovelware game. But that's not what we're talking. I don't know if they have the shovel in that game. I didn't include it in my thoughts. Remember that game?
I do remember that game.
We should stream that.
I never played it.
There's a cartoon you can watch on television.
What's it called?
Viva Pinata.
Oh.
Remember it?
The DS game also had a lot of stuff from the cartoon.
Did it?
Yeah.
It had like little cutscenes and stuff. And, like the tutorials were hosted by the characters from the cartoon.
I feel like the cartoon goes too far in like making all the characters funny cartoon characters, which is what you want a cartoon, but it's not really representative of the game where they're more like animalistic and they eat each other's entrails. That part, you don't see that in the cartoon.
Not very often.
Not very often. Yeah, so not a lot of people liked the shovel, which is why it ranked worst on this list of weapons. And that doesn't mean it's bad game design. It works perfectly for what it needs to do in Viva Pinata, but it's a Kongparison, so we had to compare it to 9 other things that are just better. So
one of them has to be last.
That's true. That's what they used to tell me in gym. All right, so moving on to number 9. We've got a few weapons that fire in spurts, but their ranking on this list has got to hurt. That's a right. It's the Donkey Kong 64 Funky's Armory weapons, which includes Donkey Kong's Coconut Shooter, Diddy Kong's Peanut Pop Guns, Tiny Kong's Feather Bow, Lanky Kong's Grape Shooter, and Chunky Kong's Pineapple Launcher. We grouped them as one umbrella term weapon, and it was voted in 9th place. Voted no hoper 3 times. Not a very well liked weapon.
Wow.
That's all you got to say. Oh, so I voted it ninth place. Andrew also voted it ninth place. Gibbon had it at seventh place, and Dustin at sixth place. So, Andrew and I were right on the money, ninth place, but the other two of you thought a little more highly of the weapons from DK64.
No, it's just that I thought of some other things worse, really.
I think pretty low of it. I think they're very stinky, bad.
Yeah, they're
Ooh.
not great to aim, and they're part of the general move bloat of the game. Like, I like DK64 a lot.
I feel
I'm
like
not
they're
saying it's
clunky to
perfect or
take
anything.
out and put back, which kind of defeats the
Yeah,
purpose of
that's
having
true.
like a projectile weapon, because it's like, oh,
I
I
like the
could shoot
part-
this, but
I like that part where Ape said they're stinky bad, and then Dustin was like, "Ooh," like it was a really bad burn.
Ooh, yikes.
Oh,
I don't-
damn, got him.
one thing I don't like that Tiny's doesn't fit the theme.
That
Yeah, it's
too.
not fruit.
Since
My
they're
favorite
feathers.
fruit is feathers. Yeah, what is it? Birds of a feather, fruit together. I think. Yeah, I think my issue with it is that there's just a lot better offensive weapons in the game. Like, it feels like the guns are more often used just to activate switches rather than actually.
Yeah,
Well,
attack
just like
something.
everything else in DK64, but
pretty much. That's the main issue with most of the moves in that game is they're context sensitive switch hitters, basically.
Yeah, if you were gonna try and clear out enemies, you would probably just use the musical instruments, which surprisingly are a much more powerful attack than guns. Which is crazy because we have gun control, but we don't have musical instrument control. What do you think of that, liberals?
Music is
Mm,
the strongest weapon of all.
yeah, power of music. Let the beat
Uh,
flow through you and riddle your body with pain.
Yeah, part of this is not even really a knock against the weapons so much as against Donkey Kong 64, the video game. Because, yeah, Donkey Kong having a coconut gun is cool as a concept. Just nothing that Donkey Kong 64 does is done well.
Wow.
That's where
I don't know about that. There's
Word.
I think there's a lot it does well. It's just got a bit too much going on. I think if they like scaled back characters' move sets to what was necessary rather than trying to have everyone like equivalent of each other, and then maybe cut back on all the stuff in each level a little bit, and like polished and refined the experience a bit, you'd have just it'd bump the rating of the game up like 10 or 15% or so. So
Yeah. Cameron Regal in our live stream chat has pointed out the oranges are more fun than the guns, the orange grenades.
they
And this
super
brings
are.
up a good point, which is that we didn't include the orange grenades on this list. So you're probably at home wondering, how can there only be 10 DKU weapons? What? You should rank like 1,000 items. But we just went with 10, and by we I mean me. I made the list. I picked out 10 kind of iconic weapons from a variety of games. Tried not to do too many from the same games or the same series. So I went with Funky's Armory because in terms of weapons in Donkey Kong 64, they're probably the iconic ones.
I like that the
like
pop guns stayed
fire and
around.
spirits.
I think
And the
that's.
pop guns did. They become part of Diddy's just permanent.
I kind of
Yeah,
like them sticking with Diddy, even though like they didn't really stick with anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, like if I would have said just Diddy's pop guns and you would have been thinking across the whole franchise, Diddy's pop guns, like Smash Brothers and in retros games, where would you rank those on the list? But I didn't say that. I said all of the DK64 weapons, so we're really just focused in on that one game.
That's
And
true.
they're just not used that well in that game, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ranked them the highest out of all of us. Probably higher than they should have been ranked, but I don't know. They got personality. I like them.
I like in the
I like the
beta.
idea
There's
of
like
them
beta
more than
screenshots where they look like real ass guns.
yeah, and like part of the reason I like these is because they do a good job of figuring out what a gun in Donkey Kong would look like. Like even just the picture you used for the list, it's neat looking. It has like the twig, the little branch coming off up the top. It's nice. I like it. I think they fit the Kongs even if they're not the best to use.
I can agree with that. I think that if they were in a different game than Donkey Kong 64, they'd probably I'd like them. Yeah. So
Nothing
all right.
personal, funky
Yeah.
weapons.
Yeah. Somebody's got to be ninth. All right. Well, that brings us to our next weapon in the DKU, which was cursed to being number 8 on our list. Talking about cursed cannonballs from Sea of Thieves. The cursed cannonballs were voted no hoper one time, not by any of us present. Gibbon and Andrew voted them in 8th place, right where they landed. I voted 7th, and Dustin voted the cursed cannonballs in 5th.
Oh.
Well, Dustin, why did you put them so high?
Yeah, why, Dustin?
Because they're fun. Because they're fun. Because they got a
I-
variety of different effects, and it's fun to see. Even if I don't use them very often because I'm not good at aiming cannon shots and I don't want to waste them. Anytime you get a hit on someone, it's well, like if you get hit by them, it's devastating. Like I think the worst one is the seasick ball. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's the one that makes you seasick when you're hit by it.
Grog ball.
Grog ball, that's it. That one
Yes,
I think screwed me over the most when hit by it, because if you get hit by that, you are drunk, you're moving around, you're around drunk, you're too unruly to fix the holes being made in your ship. And it's just a killer.
Yeah, it takes
for our
the
audience, I
already
think-
frustrating PvP in the game and makes it infinitely worse.
Yeah, but then
No.
when you hit other people with it, it's great.
Well, for our audience sake, I feel like this might be the first weapon on the list that not all of our audience is going to know what we're talking about. So, the cursed cannonballs, for those not in the know from Sea of Thieves, these are cannonballs that are cursed, and they apply a ghostly status effect when they're fired. And there are green variety ones that will have a status effect on players that are hit by the splash damage of this curse. Like Dustin said, there's one that makes you vomit. There's one that makes you poisoned by a snake. And there's one that makes you dance. One that makes you fall asleep. Things like that, status effects. Then there's the purple balls, which have a status effect on the ship itself. So things like dropping your anchor, making it so your cannons are unusable for a limited time, things like that. So I like them. I put them in 7th out of 10, which is not high, but it's not low. And I think I like them. I like thematically. I like them thematically. I like the lore behind them. There's a lot of story that goes into what created them. I think that they're visually cool. And the only reason I didn't vote them higher is they aren't very destructive directly. They're more of a what's the word? It's like a distraction weapon. It's a smoke screen type of weapon. It's ways of distracting or disrupting another pirate ship rather than actually destroying it like fire or regular cannonballs do. So you can't sink a ship with just cursed cannonballs. You have to actually have offensive weapons. So in that way, they're like a secondary, like a just like a
support weapon.
Support weapon, yeah. So that's why I didn't rank higher.
I ranked them pretty low because they're kind of a pain to use. They don't automatically get selected like regular cannonballs do, even if they're the only thing in your inventory. You have to like go into the wheel and manually hold one in order to be prompted to use it with your cannons. And then, just as I mentioned earlier, the PvP in the game is already pretty frustrating. So getting hit with them is just devastating and ruins everything. And just basically it makes the session all that much worse. And yeah, I don't like interacting with them, either being the one using them or being the one hit with them. So yeah, that's why I rated them pretty low.
I've only seen them once, so that's why I rated them pretty low.
Hey, I'll say for myself, I don't dislike them. And I think that the amount of sway they can have over the outcome of a battle, it can be great, and I like that because it's just something you have to plan around and combat. Like it's all that much more important that you don't put yourself in a position where they have good cannon shots on you, or if you can get cannon shots on them, it's all the more important that you knock them off their cannons so that they can't shoot you with a cursed cannonball that you don't see coming. But I do agree that they can be a little hard to use, and the fact that they're so limited in quantity, and then you can just miss your shot, and then you have no more ammo of that. That can be a little frustrating. So they're not like it's not frustrating. It's just that they're not used all the time very usefully. A lot of times you just never use them because of those reasons.
Yeah, I usually let other people handle using them.
I'll say the ballast ball is the best one. That is a ball that makes your ship sit lower in the water. And so if you have a bunch of holes that are high up in your ship and they've been above the water level and you didn't repair those holes because they're above the water level, then your ship suddenly is sitting lower in the water and you're just done because you should have repaired those holes, and now you have water coming in from 10 times more locations. It's devastating. That's a great cursed cannonball. But I think that's all we have to say about those, right? So don't worry, everyone at home. We're past the Sea of Thieves portion of the stream.
Yeah,
So
how many subscribers did we lose during that 10 minutes?
You can turn
It
your
was just
volume
me.
back up.
Oh,
If you muted us, you can turn us back on now, although you wouldn't hear me tell you to do that. So, homing in on 7th place, up next is a weapon I'd never want to meet under the mistletoe. It's homing missiles from Diddy Kong Racing. Get it? Mistletoe?
yay.
It's not
I
even
get
Christmas.
it, like missiles.
Homing missiles from Donkey what is it called? Diddy Kong Racing. from Donkey's Dream Home. Homing missiles were voted the no hoper one time.
And Banjo
however,
Pilot.
are they in? They got them in Banjo Pilot?
Or aren't they?
Well, they're different.
No, they're replaced by like fire eggs, aren't they? So they got rescaled.
Yeah.
So they were voted the no hoper one time. However, they were voted the top pick one time. One person said homing missiles are the best weapon in the DKU. That person's I don't agree. But here let's see what we thought. Dustin, you actually were that one person
Oh,
who
wow.
put him as no hoper. Dustin voted down to no hoper. I voted 8th place, Gibbon in 6th place, and Andrew in 4th place. So we're really widespread opinions on the homing missiles.
Let's home in on some opinions on those.
Well, you didn't like them at all. You said that's the worst weapon.
It's not that I don't like them at all. It's that I feel like they're boring. I love Diddy Kong Racing, but the missiles are not why I like Diddy Kong Racing. And like anytime I get the missiles, I'm usually happy that I have them, at least when it's the homing one and not the single or the 10 of them. I don't know. They just don't interest me that much. They're good
shovel,
for.
though?
I like the shovel. I mean, not as a weapon, but I think it has
Oh,
more
so what you're saying is
personality.
you don't like the missiles. I get you.
I think the shovel has more personality than the missiles.
I also ranked pretty low, 8th place, and effectiveness is something obviously that I factored into what makes a good weapon. But another thing I did factor in is just how much I like it thematically and how interesting it is. So I'm with you there, Dustin. I don't think the homing missiles are that interesting. When you look at something like Mario Kart that Diddy Kong Racing is obviously inspired by, they went with all items that are kind of from the Mario series, or they're all thematically make sense, like Koopa shells and stuff. And the homing missile is just a red shell, but with a less interesting skin. It's
Hmm.
Yeah,
just
it's
missile.
just a missile.
That's why I put it low. But in terms of effectiveness, obviously I give it credit that a missile that homes in automatically is a good weapon in a racing game, except that it doesn't kill anything. It just knocks, it spins you out, and then you immediately. So I feel like it's almost misleading because a missile would give the assumption that it's going to blow up and someone's going to die. But
You know what? You know what's
instead,
another reason? Oh,
spin.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
but I have
what's
another reason
another
why I put
reason?
it so low.
Let's just tag team like trashing on the missiles.
Okay. So another reason I put it down below is Diddy Kong Racing is not a hard game. You're not usually far behind the other racers like ever.
Yeah.
If Diddy Kong Racing, you're usually way in front of everybody. So if you have those missiles, guess how useful they are? Guess they're not.
That's why I ranked them pretty low, honestly. I like other stuff less, which is why the homing missiles are at number 6 and not lower. But the reasoning I gave was that, yeah, most of the time in Diddy Kong Racing, I'm in first place.
Oh,
So-
brag much?
Yeah, brag a lot all the time.
That's worth bragging about.
I really just like to drive around the overworld, looking at frogs.
That too.
So I don't even encounter missiles.
That's like 65% of the game.
Yeah.
Right. I don't race in the levels at all. I like driving around the frogs. But Andrew, you actually thought fairly highly of the missiles. So let's
Yeah,
give the
y'all are
opposite.
clowning.
We're clowning.
Yeah. So I think the missiles are cool because I like the concept of a power up that like you have to like actively build up. Because in Mario Kart, you hit the box, right? And then you don't know what you're gonna get. But with the missile, you know exactly what you're getting. You can plan around it, and if you plot like a course, you kind of have those in your plan. Um, it kind of makes the game feel more earned that the items are like a thing that you actively choose to pick up.
I agree with you,
And
but
also in the DS
that's
version,
more
they made
about
them way better.
that's more about the weapon system in general rather than the missiles specifically.
Yeah, but the missiles are one of like 2 weapons you actually use.
Except you don't. We covered this.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, there's lots of weapons.
you don't.
Yeah. Get
Yeah,
good.
I mean, missiles. I think they're effective, but I punished them. And again, something has to be 8th place. Something has to be 7th place. So it's not like I hate the missiles.
I do feel like the DS version is a lot more balanced with how the items work. Because you
Mhm.
get the missiles as like I think you get them second instead of getting them third, and then you get like the super pack or something.
You get the homing one last rather than second.
Yeah.
because the homing one is better than 10 non-homing ones.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. That's one of the things I don't like very much. Like there are opportunities where you want to keep the 10, where that's like
Are
it's
there?
Yeah.
I mean, like if you're fighting a boss and like
Yeah, that's fair.
you don't want the homing missiles then.
Yeah, the fact that they're not good in a boss fight, to me, is a negative knock against them as a weapon, because what would you take to a boss fight? The best weapon. And if this
Mhm.
isn't it, then it's not it.
But it's all about options.
That's fair. All right, I think you won me over. I think I'll put the missiles at like 4th. Yeah, I just think Diddy Kong Racing, it's not really much about weapons. So I have other items on the list that are from more weapon-oriented games, and for that reason, I just like those weapons more. So I don't know. It just landed where it landed.
Yeah, if the missiles were like, I don't know, you're shooting like a smaller monkey out of a gun at the person in front of you, then I would like them a little more. But they're
And the
just
monkey
missiles.
explodes.
Dustin,
And
if
then
you
you're
were,
just like,
if you were like a
monkey.
smaller monkey, I would like you a little bit more.
I get that a lot.
Like if you could put him like in the little shirt pocket on the
Yeah.
breast of your shirt, he just hangs out in there like peeking around.
And while you're at a job interview, you say, "Hey, look at this," and then you pull me out of your pocket, and I go, "Oh, ah, ah," and then you get the job.
And if that were true, then we'd have to rank the missiles higher.
Yeah,
I'd rank Dustin at 8th place.
Yeah, he's not.
That's low.
I think Dustin
I'm
would make
sorry,
a great
it's just-
weapon.
It's just how it fell on the list. I just happen to like other things better.
You could grab
I guess
Dustin.
something has to be 8th.
If you grab Dustin by the back of the head and you shove him into another person, it's gonna like
That'll
it's
do
gonna
some damage.
totally decimate his face, but it's gonna embed teeth in them
Yeah.
deep. So Dustin's a good weapon. Anyway, we're getting off the rails here. Coming in 6th place on our list. Moving on, 6th place. The next item is whatever gets grabbed by the good guys to help them not get grabbed by the ghoulies. Coming in 6th place is every item in Ghoulhaven Hall. Every item in Ghoulhaven Hall is the next weapon on this list, and it was voted no hoper 2 times. There were 2 people who said that's the
Wow.
worst.
Oh, what?
Those
I
people
didn't
are
agree with
wrong.
Those people aren't here, and we're gonna make fun of them. Let's see. Andrew voted them in 6th place. I voted in 5th place. Gibbon and Dustin both in 4th place. So we're all kind of right middle of the pack on the ghoulies weapons. So, you know, who loves the ghoulies weapons most? What do you love about the ghoulies weapons?
It sounds like me and Gibbon like them the most.
Yeah, like there's just so much good variety and all of the like I'm gonna pick up this chair, I'm gonna pick up this sword this guy dropped, I'm gonna pick up this other
This sword
guy
fish?
I knocked out. Yeah, I'm gonna pick up this sword fish. I'm gonna pick up this can of whatever.
I'm gonna throw
Gonna-
these hamburgers.
Yeah, like it's anything and everything is fair game in Ghoulhaven Hall, and it's glorious. I don't understand what's not to love.
And they're useful. They do way more damage than just your regular fist attacks. So
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Right. I think what I like about them is the finding the right thing for the situation, because sometimes you might fail a room a couple times trying to figure out, well, where are the weapons in this room? Where are the soup cans? And what's the best tactic? And so the way that there's so much variety in the weapons, like maybe I want to swing the chair. Maybe I'd like to do a ranged attack with the toilet paper and stay back, or something, the hamburgers, or throwing bottles of glass bottles. Or maybe I want to run to this fixed object like a table that I can swing around only once and then it's done. So the durability of the weapons is an interesting aspect of it. How most of them are limited use. They have a durability to them.
that's true.
I mean,
Andrew, what do you like?
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with everything that's said, but I will say I do think some of them can get kind of samey, where it's like there's like only
Yeah.
a couple archetypes. It's like this is
Sure. I
can see
the
that.
chair is like the exact same as like I don't know like any other heavy thing you find. So it's like I like them a lot, and there's a lot of variety to them, but also there isn't a lot of variety to them at the same time.
The
Mhm.
variety is more what the objects are, less their function.
It's more like, oh, this is like a different thing that does the same thing, which is fine. It
I
works
can
with
see
what
that.
it works with what Ghoulies is, but
I can understand that point of view.
Yeah, I'm gonna run real quick over to our forum thread where Alter Mentality, otherwise known as our friend Courtney, had this to say about the items in Ghoulhaven Hall. I really loved Grab by the Ghoulies overall, and when items come into play, there's strategy involved in deciding whether to pick something close at hand or go for what seems like a powerful item that may be just out of reach and will require trying to escape a gaggle of enemies to get to it. Should you try a throwing weapon that you might miss with, or a short range item which is more dependable and powerful but forces you to let your enemy get much closer? You have to think fast and pay attention to everything around you. There's also a lot of risk reward involved when the game bans weapons, and you have to decide if you want to go for it anyway because it's worth it and deal with avoiding the Reaper. The idea of using a bunch of junk lying around, from chairs to books to burgers to bottles of champagne to toilet paper to On Guard's deceased brethren and so much more, and seeing it fall apart piece by piece in your hands is just so fun and viscerally satisfying to me. So that was Courtney on the forum. And I think, yeah, just perfectly summed it up. You know, it's a lot of strategic choices to be made. And there's like a good freedom in the choices where you kind of it. There's obviously a better way to do a challenge, but it's up to you to figure it out or do it the way you want to do it. And I like that. Yeah.
Some good wordsmithery there.
All right. Well, moving on. Moving on from Grab by the Ghoulies, we have we're into the top 5 now. And our next entry kind of stretches the definition of a fist fight. And it wasn't exactly a smash hit with the voters. We're talking about smash hits from the Battletoads series. Smash hits. Nobody thought that smash hits were the worst weapon in the DKU. But 2 people thought smash hits were the best weapon in the DKU.
Oh, wow.
And both of those people are here. Those people, that's me, and that's my friend Andrew.
Yeah.
So there you
go. I would not have guessed that from Andrew.
Well, and then Dustin put them in third, so very high. But Gibbon voted smash hits in 9th place on the list of 10. Oof.
Yes. For one very simple reason. They're not weapons.
Well, so one of the things about the smash hits, if you haven't played a Battletoads game, which is possible in a DK Vine audience, is that smash hits are the attacks that the Battletoads use in which they morph parts of their body into inanimate objects. The Battletoads have a supernatural superhero ability to morph their body parts. And they use them for combat. So it's a little bit almost like Green Lantern, where they conjure shapes out of the Green Lantern, whatever they can imagine. The Battletoads are that way, except that it's physically shape-shifting their body into shapes. And so this is the only item on the list where I felt like even though you're technically using your fists and body parts, it still, to me, counted as a weapon because they transforms into things like a hammer or a missile or
a giant fish,
or a mace, or a train or a giant arcade cabinet, that are used as weapons. You know, so even though it's their fists, it transforms into objects. But you obviously disagreed, Gibbon.
Yeah, I disagreed that they were weapons.
Well, you're wrong.
I said right in my thing that they're fun and they're great, but they're not weapons.
I can see where both of you are coming from.
I feel like if there was gonna be an exception, so we didn't say like Donkey Kong's fists are a weapon. Like we didn't say anything like that on this list. But if there was gonna be an exception, it would be the Battletoads because
to quote Daphne from Scooby-Doo, the first live action film, the body is a dangerous weapon. So,
well, to quote Velma from the same film, Jinkies.
She does say that.
But Andrew and I, we like the smash hits most of all. I think we said they're the best weapon. So I'll just say from my own perspective, for me, it came down to two aspects, two sort of things I was grading these weapons on, that the smash hits excelled in both of these categories a lot. Well, three categories really. One is just the cool factor. I think they're awesome and entertaining and interesting. So that's off the charts. And then two is versatility. I ranked pretty highly. And so since this is kind of it can transform into almost anything sort of weapon, I thought versatility way off the charts. Now, I know a lot of people punished versatility for not being a well-defined thing, and we'll get into that in another entry coming up later. But I thought versatility makes for a good weapon. And then the last thing was just the satisfaction of the actual gameplay of using it. And so something like Ghoulies, very satisfying to smack things with weapons. Something like the Viva Pinata Shovel, not that effective. And so I think that Battletoads for me is the most satisfying weapon to use because it's a fighting game combo system and just really satisfying to string together combos of these moves and execute them.
One thing I like also is that it has a lot of potential. Like if they were to make another Battletoads game after the one they just did, they could have completely different ones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's just the concept is very free. So
yeah, definitely.
You can let your imagination run wild with what their big fists turn into.
Yeah, and well, some of them, and one thing I also will compliment is that they're tuned to each of the Toads' personalities, and it kind of gave each of them
pretty great.
a different vibe. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like Zitz uses a lot of technology and things that are mechanical, and then you have Rash does a lot of more animalistic things, like turns into a shark, turns into the chicken fist.
diaper.
I hadn't noticed that.
And then whereas Pimple is the heavy hitter, has a lot of very heavy, solid objects like the anvil, the mace fist, or and the train car. So yeah, I like that it gives them each unique flavor.
Agreed.
Yeah, I do like all that stuff about it. Like I said, they're good. They're not weapons.
You were counting the technicality against it.
Yeah, basically.
As Courtney in our live stream chat pointed out, the conga of this episode of the Kongparison is a callback to when we said that conga was a first world boss of Banjo-Kazooie, and a lot of us didn't think that it really was a boss fight. But yeah,
that's what gets the conversation going.
I think people were pretty split because you have Gibbon who ranked them low, and then you had us who ranked it very high, but it ended up coming in 5th place out of 5. So the audience, the voters were generally split. And I want to go over to Cameron Regal of the DK Vine staff, or Broken Clutch on the forum, who said this: these are another basically magic sort of weapon like the context-sensitive pads, allowing the Toads to turn their limbs into any number of ridiculous things or summon objects out of thin air. But a key difference is their consistency and internal rules. They aren't a fix for everything. The Toads can all do ridiculous, outlandish things, but restricted to their own specific personal flavors. And it's up to you how best to utilize them and mix them up. You can combo enemies with Zit's speedy technology, sci-fi themed moves, and then follow them up with Pimple's slow to wind up but powerful moves to finish them off while they're dazed. They're also very funny to watch. That is a point that's underrated.
Mm-hmm.
They're very funny.
They have lots of personality.
Yeah, great animations. So that's really good. And I also wanted to point out that Hyle Russell, the DK Vine co-founder, ranked them very low, but basically said something along the lines of because he didn't know how to pull them off very well with the combos. And so I don't know, man, like you got to get good. It's
that speaks more to Hyle's inability to play it than
learn the buttons. He said morph attacks are great, but I have to admit I still don't have the hang of utilizing the one that I want. I just try different combinations and hope to keep my grade up. Well,
They're not
you know,
that hard to pull off.
well, I see. The thing is, the game doesn't teach you the exact combo.
You gotta look them up.
Of when to get the one you want, and it's
That
really
is something that the game could use as like a move list.
Yeah.
I mean, once you understand the logic of how it works, is
Yeah.
that all of them have you combo through all the way through the combo, and then hit the button, and you pull off their main smash attack. But then, if you were to do it one early and end the combo one hit early, it does their secondary smash attack. So like they all have an internal like rule set of like once you learn how to count, you just have to count the punches, but it's different for each Toad, which is what makes it confusing because each Toad has a different base combo. Anyway, this is why I love it, is because of the complexity of just the combo. I just think it's very satisfying to get good at it. And once you are doing that, you're like, man, it felt so good to do it right. But yeah, and I will say also, the fact that I ranked this number one, I feel like I have to talk a lot about it. I just will say, I rewarded weapons that are from games that are more about combat, and part of that is because I just think if it's a game about combat, then the weapon, by the nature of the gameplay, is gonna be more satisfying and feel good to use. And I don't think you could top a beat 'em up fighting game in that regard. Like the gameplay of the game it comes from is the most combat-y game on this list. So
I think the only way you'd really beat that is if the DKU had something like Soul Calibur, where weapon combat is the entire point.
Moving on, I feel, I put it number one. It went all the way to number 5. So I'm really not on the pulse of the DK Vine community on this one. But we will move on. Moving on to number 4. In this one, I think it's going to be crystal clear why people like the next weapon. Some of you pick up the puns early. It's Crystal's staff from Star Fox Adventures. Crystal staff. Crystal staff was voted no hoper one time, and that person is here. Gibbon voted Crystal Staff 10th place. Although overall it has landed 4th on the list. Dustin and Andrew both put it at 7th, and I put it at 4th. So we all kind of are down the spectrum. So why don't you like the staff, Gibbon?
As I clarified after some people called me out on it in the thread, it's been a long time since I played Star Fox Adventures, and my vague recollection of it was that combat wasn't very satisfying, and I actually legit forgot that the staff played a really big role in the rest of the game's proceedings. So it's not that I dislike the staff much, it's that I just didn't really remember all that it did. That being said, I'd just like to point out that other people in the thread were praising the staff for its versatility and how much usefulness it has throughout the game in general, and point at how this was counted against the shovel earlier in the discussion.
Yeah, I was about to say.
So
that wasn't my issue with the shovel. It was my issue with the shovel was that it was sluggish and slow to use.
Yeah, my issue with the shovel is that it's stinky bad. Or whatever I said.
I think that the shovel is used for a lot of things that have nothing to do with combat, and so the little sliver of its usefulness that is for combat is not that good. Whereas the crystal's staff is used for a lot of things, and a lot of them are different kinds of combat. So it's
okay, that's fair.
That's kind of what I meant by versatility. The shovel isn't used for versatility in combat. It's used for combat in one way. Whereas the crystal staff, you can whack things with it. You can shoot. You can shoot ice bolts. You do like a flame blast. You could do a quake, ground quake. So it's just like a lot of different ways to attack things that all come from one weapon. So that's why I ranked it 4th, which is fairly high. But none of you put it that high.
That's true. We didn't.
But why?
I don't know. Just didn't leave that strong an impression on me. I agree. I don't think the combat feels that good with it, and I don't know. It's just not that
I don't
interesting
like.
to me.
There's
I
so
guess.
much delay after like Fox swings it. Like after the second swing, that it makes every other swing after that feel really awkward.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of clunky.
I think
and
it's
grody.
fine as an overall tool. Like the shovel. But yeah, I never really. It never felt that good to me to use as a weapon. But it's
Yeah,
also been
well-
a long time since I played it, so
Yeah, I do think that naturally you're gonna we're comparing very different kinds of games. Sometimes you're gonna punish a thing because you don't like the game or you don't remember the game as well as another game, which is kind of why I didn't rank the DK64 weapons high because I don't really like DK64. So on the flip side, I really like Star Fox Adventures. So for that reason, I think pretty highly of the staff. But
When I remember Star Fox Adventures, I remember the puzzle solving and the interesting NPCs and the set pieces and the music and how clunky the combat felt. Those are things I remember. And the amazing Star Fox style final boss fight. So
Yeah,
those were the impressions I have that have lasted from Star Fox Adventures.
yeah, I
So-
remember even as a kid, I remember not really thinking the combat was that fun, even as a stupid youngster.
yeah, as compared to a stupid oldster.
Yeah.
Burn. Well, I'm gonna have to quote again Hyle Russell from the forum thread.
It's because he's paying you, isn't it?
Yeah, no, Hyle doesn't pay us.
Oh,
He's paying all of us. Weird.
Oh my god, this is, you know what? Listen, this is a lesson. Workers should discuss their wages. It's better
yeah.
for
He's
all
not
workers.
paying me either. It's because I'm paying him. So,
Read your
Oh
contract.
yeah, I am paying. I'm paying into his Patreon.
oh yeah.
Hyle Russell on Crystal Staff had this to say: wildly versatile, it might be the most simple yet efficient weapon on this list. Capable of melee and magical ranged combat, it can also store messages on it. It was very tempting to rank this higher than number 3. So Hyle had them at number 3
Wow.
and almost higher. And Hyle in the live stream chat pointed out the truth, which is that I do get paid in Cheez-It crackers.
Shit, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
My last job paid me in cheese nips, which is why I quit.
Oh,
Sorry, Rare Gamer.
You were right
Yeah.
to do so.
Yeah, I mean that's Crystal Staff for you. It's
Mhm.
you like it or love it or hate it or
It placed higher than I would have thought it would.
I think the people that like Star Fox Adventures really like it.
Mm-hmm.
And they voted so if I just look at the spread of votes, let's see. Crystal Staff, it only got one last place vote, Gibbon. It had no 9th place votes. It had only one 8th place vote. So most of the votes, like people who didn't like it, didn't hate it either, mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a few 7th place votes, a few a lot of 4th place votes.
So Gibbon's the only one. with
yeah,
bad
bad
Hey,
opinion.
It was more that I just didn't really have much of an opinion on it. It was
It's
that last place because I actually had strong feelings about everything else.
yeah. I mean, that's how I was last time. I voted the Jungle Beat one last just because I haven't played it enough to have an opinion on it. So it makes sense. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Still fine because the idea of what is the best weapon, we all have a different idea of what makes one better than the other. So it's going to be that
Mhm.
way. But, moving on, I think we're now into the top 3. So
Ooh.
yeah, I know. The top 3, let's see. Rounding out the top 3 DKU weapons. This happens to be the first weapon that you encounter in the Donkey Kong universe. A projectile that's more fun than a barrel full of monkeys. It's a barrel flung by monkeys.
Hey.
Coming in
Sometimes
number
containing
3.
monkeys.
Little monkeys in little shirt pockets. No, coming in number 3, we're talking about barrels from the Donkey Kong series. Barrels. It was voted as the top pick one time, not by any of us. Dustin put it in 8th. I put barrels in 6th. Gibbon and Andrew both had barrels ranked in 3rd, which
Right
is
on the
where it
money.
landed. Right on the money. So
Yeah, so the two guys named after apes put the barrels high. Gotcha.
Some sort of bias.
some sort of lobbying by the barrel lobby. Big barrel got to him.
That's my favorite game, Donkey
The
Kong's
big
Barrel
barrel
Bias.
from New Donkey Kong Country.
Belcha is a big barrel full of small barrels. A lot of barrels going on in that fight.
Belch is just going to carry over from in every
Belcha
Kongparison.
is the mascot of the Kongparison.
Waiting for Daly's Belcher is always pregnant tweet.
Belcha's always pregnant. But those little barrels are the barrels the babies or are the insects?
Yeah, do you think
the
it's like a
barrels
giant bug
eggs?
in there?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh,
I
the
don't
barrels
like
are
any
the
of it.
egg, and when the egg hatches, it hatches a giant insect. Anatomy.
I regret
Biology.
starting this train of thought.
So outside of being spit out. So wait, would that make Belcha's mouth its cloaca?
Yes.
That's where the eggs are coming out.
Only if the same applies to
It was
Birdo.
never a mouth. It was never a mouth. Just like the film Teeth. Belcha has teeth. There. Anyway. I think barrels are good. Here's where I landed on my list. I put barrels at 6th. I had 5 things above it, and all 5 of those things are things that I think are more versatile and more useful in different combat situations than barrels are. And then the 5 things I put were things that I felt were more specialized to a particular moment. And of those 5 kinds of things, I had barrels the highest. But I still put them on the low half of my list because I just thought the other ones were better. Yeah, I don't dislike barrels. I feel like most of the time I use a barrel to open a hidden door, not to kill an enemy.
They do have more combat uses than just killing an enemy, though, because they can also be used as shields. They can be used as vehicles if you do the riding on thing.
They hit switches and tropical freeze.
And they're used in a lot of different contexts across the series. So I think they've just seen a nice spread of use and versatility, to use that keyword again. So
for me, I think I love barrels in the series. I love them as an element of gameplay with different uses. I just thought if you're purely talking about a combat situation, what's a better weapon? I thought the barrels were middle of the road, like 6 out of 10.
I mean, the barrel's got a pal inside sometimes too. So you know.
Gaining a hit point is powerful.
Yeah, this is how we can use Dustin as a weapon. He's inside of a barrel. We lobbed at somebody.
And the barrel
That's
was
true.
hatched from the cloaca of a giant barrel god.
If you listen closely, you can hear me go eep 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 eep.
Then you jump on the barrel and Dustin pops out. You put him in your little shirt, and then you got a job.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, thanks, Dustin. But Dustin, you put him pretty low. You 8 out of 10.
I did.
Well, what's up?
That's wrong.
I just don't think they're super interesting. I think they're iconic. They're iconic to Donkey Kong, but like you said, if I'm coming up to a Kremling walking down the block, and he sees me in his eye, and he says, "I'm gonna touch this person and kill him," I would much rather just jump on them or roll into them.
But I mean, you don't even need to. You can just stand there and let them run into your barrel.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could.
It's a shield.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
I guess you could, but
that demonstrates kind of the fact that different Kongs hold the barrel in a different stance. Which, again, I think I like the fact that it adds, like, all of the things it adds to gameplay.
Yeah.
But I think the barrel, for me, it aids in a lot of platforming gameplay. But in terms of, even if you were just to compare it to platformers, what's the best weapon in a platformer? I would say Rambi is a better weapon. I would say the Fire Flower from Mario is a better weapon.
Mhm.
It is a weapon, but it's not a great weapon. It's a really great tool in the game with a lot of different uses, but most of the good uses of it aren't really as a weapon.
Yeah, like if I see a barrel, I do get excited that I found a barrel, but I'm more excited that, oh, I could use this to open up a secret entrance to a bonus stage rather than, oh, I can use this to end a Kremling's life.
I will say I like the variety of kinds of barrels. The TNT barrel, very satisfying to use. Then you have your steel barrels, the stuff. And I like that they use it to kind of trick you when you have the clobbers that you think you've got a barrel, but then it attacks you, and then now you have to dodge this enemy, but then you still can get a barrel out of it if you defuse the enemy, jump on their head. Now you get this barrel.
It's kind of like a mimic in an RPG, but like in a platformer, and that's cool because you don't see that anywhere else.
Right. And I like that you turn it into the weapon. Like you think it's a thing you want, it turns out not to be, but then you can still get a barrel out of it if you jump on his head.
Another reason I kind of voted it lower is because barrels kind of, you don't see them that much in the retro games. You see them like once every now and then, but like I think it's way less often that you see them than you do in the rare ones.
Post DKC 3 or DK Land 3, they really didn't use barrels to the best of their, like Donkey Kong 64 doesn't really.
Well, it does, but their set pieces, like a lot of the mini games, take place in giant barrels.
Yeah, but you don't use them as weapons.
Yeah, barrels you throw show up in like a couple boss fights, maybe, and then once in a blue moon in a level.
Yeah, I think it's like just Armadillo.
I agree that they're too rare and that's not a pun. They're too they're too infrequent in the retro games, but I also wouldn't punish them on the list for that, because I would just think if they're not really in those games much, then I'll only grade them on how they are in the original trilogy. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I guess, but it just makes them not really come to mind for me as like favorite DKU weapons. I guess.
I mean,
like because they show up less frequently, I
don't think they really do though,
because
I feel like the retro games like throw buddy barrels at you constantly.
Yeah.
Well, Courtney in the live stream chat said Beaver Bother is a barrel that is a psychological weapon.
Yeah,
and I think
that's true. So
that barrels, after that, I agree barrels ought to be where they are on this list, which is third place.
Banned by the Geneva Convention.
Perfect Werecat on the DK Vine forum had this to say about barrels, very short and sweet. Barrels hurt. They can be big, heavy, and bulky. So that's the trifecta. Big, heavy, and bulky. Good analysis of barrels. They hurt. And that actually makes me rethink it a little, because if someone actually threw a real life barrel at you,
you'd die.
That would hurt. That's serious business. We're not talking about somebody. We're not talking about a grape shooter. Like someone spit a grape out of a thing.
I also
like.
Enemies are using them as weapons too.
Yeah, that's true.
Kong. Yeah.
Yeah, you have Manky Kong. You have the bazookas.
Yeah.
The barrel.
What's the one? Cannon.
Yeah.
Cannon. Yeah.
Cannon just mostly
Cannon
just
doesn't shoot
cannonballs.
Yeah, it's cannonballs. Never mind.
There might be one or two levels.
Yeah,
they do. Cannon used barrels a few times. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what barrels I do like?
What?
Tell me what barrels you
like. The barrels I do like are the barrel enemies in DKC 3. Nakas with the faces on them. Those ones I love.
I think they're cool, but I feel like they defeat the purpose of tricking you.
Yeah,
That's fair.
they just look fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're no Belcha.
But what is, honestly?
Yeah.
Well. All right. Well, moving on to number 2. But I'm not gonna make a poop joke. Let's see. Sorry, I lost my place. The next entry, number 2, is it is just what we need at this moment in time. Number 2, coming in second place, it's the context-sensitive button pads from Conker's Bad Fur Day. All right, just what we need at this moment in time. Context-sensitive pads were picked as the top weapon in the DKU 2 times. 2 people, but those people aren't here. It was also voted no hoper 1 time. So one person out there actually thought the context-sensitive pads are the worst weapon in the DKU. And that brings us to this month's special guest.
No.
We're going to take a call, and we're going to hear from somebody explain their point of view on why context-sensitive pads, although collectively we've ranked them number 2 out of 10, somebody thinks they're not good at all. So if everyone's ready to listen to the call, go ahead and roll it.
Mitchell Wolf here. Hello Kongparison crew, and good morrow to both Jeff Onan and other people. During my working days, my current primary occupation is as a mechanics and level designer on a video game. This might seem to imply that I have some special know-how about how the design of in-universe game weapons work. I assure you, I am bad at most things in my life, including, but also especially, my job. That said, I do want to talk about context-sensitive pads from the title Conker's Bouncy House. I initially had context-sensitive pads somewhere around rank 5 out of 10. They are fun! The more I thought about them, however, the more my opinion soured and bloodied like an altogether different kind of emergency curing pad. While those pads serve an important medical function and frankly should be paid for by the government, these pads, however, are a joke, both brightly literally and darkly figuratively. The first thing to realize about context-sensitive pads is that they are a lie. They purport to giving Conker exactly what he needs in any given context. They do not do this. They seem to be able to produce just about any object, natural or man-made, for Conker, but they at no point deign to shorten Conker's journey by just giving him a map back to his house. Why not? Why not bring Conker $1 billion? Why not just bring him Barry herself and end the chase before it begins? These pads don't give Conker exactly what he needs. They give him the least amount he can possibly use. By making sure Conker never has any more power than is absolutely necessary, these pads make it all but impossible to actually save Barry, ensuring that Conker's big fat Greek wedding ends only with sadness and not an ounce of celebratory baba ganoush. That's only in-universe, however. On a Doyleist rather than Watsonian level, i.e. a design level, context-sensitive pads represent a shortcut in the game development process. Conker's big home run often serves as a parody of both popular movies and the 3D platformer genre that developer Rare was so closely identified with at the time of its release. These context-sensitive pads are no exception. They seem to be screaming, hey, isn't it silly how these kinds of games have lazy contrivances, solving problems with automatic win boosts rather than actually planning and implementing interesting mechanic or level designs for the player to enjoy? I say, yes, it is silly. Don't do it, please. Making fun of a poor design choice in other games by including it in your game, except with the dumb turned up to 11, and actually following through on it straight, does your game no favors. From a quick skim of the Kongparison thread on dkvine.com/infectedtoe, I've found that my thoughts on the context-sensitive pads are clearly a minority opinion. Well, let's make this call my minority report, and hope that the pads bring Tom Cruise his son back. Given their track record, however, they'll probably just give him swimming flippers, so that he can stay underwater while ignoring the abduction of his son in style.
Wow.
I got some words.
Sure.
I got some words.
Hard.
for
So, yeah, so Mitchell Wolf, MF Wolf, mother, Mitchell Mother Wolf put context-sensitive pads in dead last. He was the only one to do this.
that. Yeah, and he's wrong.
But for the rest of us, Andrew put context-sensitive pads in 5th place. I had them ranked in 3rd place. Dustin and Gibbon both put them in 2nd place, where they ended collectively on the group list. 2nd place, context-sensitive pads, the 2nd best weapon in the DKU. So let's unpack the opinions of our friend Mitch.
First of all, I'm not sure where it's ever stated that they give him exactly what he needs, just that they are sensitive to the context of the situation.
Conker
I think
says it at the beginning.
At the very
Yeah,
beginning,
but
when
we
he
all know he's full of shit. So
says,
That's true. How
these
does he
will-
know exactly how
what we
that
need. Yeah, you're right, because he realizes it himself and then describes it, but he could be wrong. He doesn't
Yeah.
understand how they work. So when he says,
he's also
I
like drunk and hungover at the time. So
Yeah, nowhere does the game say that's exactly what they do.
right, he just says, oh, I see how these work. They give me just what we need at this moment in time. Context sensitive. Ha! Huh. And then he goes off to do squirrel things and piss on things. But,
Oh,
some people, Mitchell's not the only one to put them low. He's the only one to put them that low. But there were other people that kind of felt like the fact that they are almost like a godlike cheat devalues them. With other people, because they're not a hard to find thing. Some people did not value that fact. They punished it for it.
Now,
While
I
other
just-
people like me, I put it very highly because it can be anything, and I think that's a good quality to have in a weapon.
I
I
view them in the. Oh, go ahead.
I have one specific aspect of Mitch's argument that I want to it's kind of like when you're watching a movie and then like it's like, oh, why didn't he just use a gun?
boy, I hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
And that's kind of what Mitch's argument was, and I don't know if I
Why
agree
doesn't
with that.
Batman just shoot the Joker?
Yeah,
It's because,
Yeah.
well, then you don't have a movie.
I view them more in the context, of the old interact command in early RPGs where everything was menued out, where you'd walk up to something and try to interact with it via the menu command, and whatever that interaction was would play out. And sometimes it'd be useful and sometimes it wouldn't be, but it was always, as the squirrel says, sensitive to the context of the situation. So for me, that was just kind of that playing out on the Nintendo 64 in a 3D game. I know it was mentioned in the call that they were sort of lampooning the platformer genre that they'd been known for. And while I suppose it is a lampoon of their more traditional collectathon platformer fare, I don't actually view Bad Fur Day as a collectathon or a platformer. It's more of a like if it were made today, I could see it being made by Telltale, you know? It's more that sort of game. Or something more akin to like the Oddworld games, where like a cinematic platformer rather than a
Mm-hmm.
collectathon puzzle platformer. So the context sensitive thing was just sort of par for the course for that sort of game for me.
For me, I
Yeah.
feel like the fact that it can be a lot of different things adds a lot to Bad Fur Days. It adds a lot to the game because of just the variety of things you get to do. Sometimes you're flamethrowering bats. Sometimes you are doing another example, and or slingshotting dung beetles, and all the different examples that there are throwing toilet paper. And that makes the game feel very fresh, and that's kind of Bad Fur Day's main quality, is that maybe it's not the best at anything, but you get a lot of different kinds of things for your buck. You get the variety versus the top quality.
Oh, and lest anyone try to use my smash hits aren't a weapon argument against me, context-sensitive pads are actually a weapon in Project Spark. Conquer can pull one out and throw it down, and then use its spoils in the middle of combat. So,
yeah, and I think that there's a kind of joy to approaching a pad and not knowing what it's going to do, but
It's a
know it's going to
surprise.
be
Well,
going to do something cool.
it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon. Like, you don't know what kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous weapon
Yeah.
Bugs Bunny's gonna pull out, but
mhm.
But
Right,
the
he
results
just
are
pulls
always
out
fun
whatever
and
he
funny.
wants.
and
He
the
pulls
thing is,
something
like,
out of his pocket.
it's in service to the gag that already exists. It's not like they built this thing around a gameplay mechanic. They built the gameplay mechanic around this gag they already had, which kind of gives it a different, like, structural
yeah.
existence too.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
because Conquer feels like it has more of a cartoony feel to it, I feel like something like this works better. Like something like this, I don't think would work in, say, Banjo or Sea of Thieves.
I mean, he
but I
literally
think
turns into
something
an
like this
anvil.
works.
Like,
Yeah, like this works perfectly with Conquer and his world, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't rank it very low because of the fact that I think if I were just to take the different things that it does for you in the game and just look at those things collectively, machine guns and flamethrowers and throwing knives and slingshots, and if I were to just list out all the things it does for you at different points and then say, well, if you had all these weapons, would you say that's a good weapon? I would say yes. That is a good
think
weapon to
so.
have. I want all those. It's like Ghoulies, where the entry on the list was a lot of different weapons, and you don't have access to all of them all the time, which is also true of the context-sensitive pad. You don't get to choose what you get. It's just like that, except that the weapons are better. It's like if Ghoulies constantly had flamethrowers and more over-the-top weapons. Like Bad Fur Day is a more extreme over-the-top game. So you have more stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. I actually strongly disagree. I don't think they're bad design. I think they work perfectly for the type of game it is and what they're going for.
I don't disagree with that part when you said you were bad at the things you do in your life. I don't disagree with that.
Oh,
You're really bad at
Mitch.
being a guest host on a podcast thing, mister.
That podcast is great, especially the episode I'm in.
No, I mean
okay.
this thing we're doing right now. He's a guest host. Special guest. Not actually, he did a great job. He did the little backing audio on that.
That was very professional.
Edited his own little call.
That whole production just kind of showed us up.
I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, you did a good job, Mitch. Actually, even though I don't agree with your opinions, I do agree with your person.
I feel like Mitch is really bad at giving himself the credit he deserves.
This is true.
Mitch is bad at admitting how good he truly is as a friend and a person.
Well, I think Mitch had the wrong opinion.
You're gonna make it look like I think Mitch sucks.
I think if he was on a list of weapons, I would put him maybe like 5.
Mitch is not a weapon.
He's not a weapon.
If smash hits aren't a weapon, then Mitch is not a weapon.
Yeah.
I want Rash's big fist to turn into Mitch.
The chicken fist becomes the Mitchin fist. I don't know. It's great.
That can go in the DK Vine fan Battletoads game.
It's definitely going to be a card in the DK Vine Cards Against Humanity expansion.
We should support those guys until they have better office practices.
Well, we weren't really gonna. It was only a gag. Well, here comes, I think, the moment we've been waiting for. The best weapon we're about to reveal in the Donkey Kong universe, as voted by the DK Vine forum. And it's to no one's surprise, as this is what beak performance looks like. It's Kazooie. Kazooie herself from the Banjo-Kazooie series is the best weapon in the DKU. Kazooie was picked top pick 7 times. the most by far of anything on this list.
Wow.
Including by some of us here, not me. I put Kazooie in second place. Andrew put Kazooie in second place. Both of us put Kazooie right behind Smash Hits.
I want to amend my vote because if Smash Hits aren't a weapon, then Kazooie for sure is not a weapon.
Damn. I mean, yikes. So we're gonna put them. We're gonna put them 9 and 10 respectively. But Andrew, Gibbon and Dustin, both of you put Kazooie as your top pick, along with 5 other people. So, yeah, that's what makes Kazooie a good weapon. Tell the audience.
I think the most harmful thing about Kazooie are her words.
This is very true.
I never even
really argue with
not
that.
once thought of that. I'm thinking, okay, but literally as a weapon, versatility wise, she pecks things, she shoots eggs, she can be held first person or not first person. You can swing her like an actual mallet. It's a lot of good attacks that are all come from the use of her body as a weapon. But
and she flies,
on top
so look
of
out
that,
from the sky.
As you brought it up, she also is a weapon of words, and I never thought of that.
She can hurt in many different ways.
Her wit is barbed, just as her talons are pointy.
She can shoot eggs while flying. Like
that's true, and you can beak bomb while flying.
Yeah,
it's gonna
that's dangerous.
hurt.
Oh, and in Banjo-Tooie, you have that little torpedo move where you can send Kazooie out. Kazooie can just attack people in every single element, every which way.
Land, air, and sea. You cannot hide from Kazooie. She is coming for you.
If you try and run, she'll freeze you.
That's
Ice
true.
eggs, grenade eggs, fire eggs.
We hadn't even gotten to the types of eggs.
Clockwork eggs. All of the 4 elements of the Avatar Kingdom. Ice, fire, grenade, and clockwork. Oh, and blue. So many eggs.
Great.
She's great. I think that a lot of the reason that a lot of people voted Kazooie so highly is not just what we've already said, but also just the coolness factor. There's the factor of just I like this weapon better than that weapon because of the way it is. I think the homing missile is effective, but I don't like it thematically, or it's not interesting to me. Kazooie is the only weapon on this list that is a talking object, a talking creature. She's not an object. She's a creature.
She's not an object. She's not a weapon.
Objectifying.
I'm sorry. But, so I think that immediately if you're just saying, well, which of these do I like best? I'm going to say I like Kazooie best because I like Kazooie.
Yeah. Who says a weapon can't be alive?
Yeah.
Nobody says that. No one's ever said that.
Okay, but the Smash Hits are a part of the Toads, which are a living being. So
the Smash Hits. First of all, I want to put the end to the debate on that is that they are a weapon because we included them on this list, and if they're not, then the whole episode is invalid and a lie.
It's a mistrial.
And nobody wants that, so we all just have to agree that it is a weapon.
Outro music.
Okay. I think the thing is, I can see the argument for Smash Hits because they're using their body parts. Their body parts do transform into weapons, and that's why I consider them weapons. But I can see the argument.
But Kazooie is nothing but...
Kazooie is like Banjo's weapon.
Every part of Kazooie is a body part because it's part of her body.
Yeah, but if we had said Kazooie's moveset when she's solo in Banjo-Tooie, I would have been, no, that's not a weapon. That's just attacks because
someone else
but
is
I'm
using
saying, yes, it's because like 90% of Banjo's moveset is using Kazooie as a weapon or a tool.
Yeah.
But if that's true, then I would say that Mitchell Wolf is a weapon because it wouldn't just be him using his fists, it would be me using him.
Yeah, exactly.
As the weapon. I would grab him by the ankle, and I'd smack someone else with him by swinging him through the air.
Can Mitch turn into a dragon, though?
I mean, Mitch has already
think
covered
so.
Oh, no, he
everything in
can't turn
Gloomhaven
in-
Hall.
He
So
can't
Yeah.
turn into a dragon. He's not as good a weapon as Kazooie, but he's still a weapon. I'd put him 6 out of 10.
mm,
And he's got fingers.
And that's not bad.
Kazooie doesn't have those.
That
Kazooie
is
doesn't
true.
have gloves or fingers. She didn't have, they're just like wing feathers. They're not fingers.
Mhm.
So, that's a bit of a callback to parts that won't even be in the YouTube edit. Well, we're obviously all in agreement. Kazooie's a great weapon. Andrew and I had it at 2. Gibbon and Dustin both at 1. So we're, and pretty much everyone across the board. I'm actually going to
still
look.
very high.
The lowest ranking for Kazooie was one psychopath. Put Kazooie in 7th place. Just kidding. You're not a psychopath. You're allowed your opinion.
Even if it's completely wrong.
We saw from our good friend, intelligent person Mitchell, that anyone can have an opinion that's wrong, and you're entitled.
I think it
So-
does say a lot that 7th is the lowest that Kazooie had. Like, that's not like right at the bottom.
yeah.
That's like, it's not the highest, but that's like kind of in the middle. And if that's the lowest, I think that says a lot.
hmm
Yeah, nobody dislikes Kazooie as a weapon, which is good. That's why it gets high. That's why it gets the top spot on this list. Because context-sensitive pads are good weapons, but there were a number of people that really didn't think they were good weapons and had them very low. Although I did want to point out, context-sensitive pads only scored better than Donkey Kong barrels by 1 vote point.
Ooh.
So that could have gone any, wow, we good for you, Conquer.
Yeah.
Context-sensitive pads.
Like, Conker's context-sensitive pads are very interesting, but it's not like they talk. They're not a character with a personality. So I had to put Kazooie above him.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, I'll get another quote from the DK Vine forum.
About
DK
Kazooie?
Vine, about Kazooie.
Wow.
DK Vine forum user Brittle Nipples Kevin said, always pregnant and full of eggs, as well as the ability to fly and temporary invulnerability. Just, it's kind of a statement of 3 things. Doesn't say if those are good things or not, but they sound like good things. And so, Kevin brought attention to the fact that Kazooie, like Belcha, is always pregnant.
Mhm.
And I think one thing that we can all agree on is that one who is able to weaponize a pregnant woman weaponizes life itself. They weaponize creation. And in
True.
doing so, they become more powerful than any one of us can possibly imagine. For this reason, Kazooie is the greatest weapon in the DKU. For Gibbon, for Dustin, for Andrew, for DK Vine, and for me, thank you all for joining us, and stay tuned for the next Kongparison. And that's where the YouTube edit will end.